So thanks for bearing with us on that last segment, folks. You know, we tell that story because it really does highlight some of the craziness that is going on out there that we see on a regular basis in the office. When people come in to visit with us for the first time and we hear these stories of how effectively they are just getting kicked to the curb because they no longer have the right amount of assets for the financial servicing institution to make enough profit off of them, that they are getting kicked to the curb and sent to the online, self-directed, whatever it is. That is just a shame, isn't it, Rob?
It is a shame. It doesn't make sense. They're just not doing what's in the best interest of a client. And we've got these generations coming. This is the biggest generation that's growing right now, and this is going to be older folks who've already saved up their money who now need income. They need the best service they can get.
Well, and in this case, I mean, that's a perfect point about needing the income, because this situation involved an 80-year-old. She'd been a longtime client of this particular financial institution. At one point, as she said, well, at one point I had $500,000, but my husband died, and I'm retired, and I need to use the money. And now, okay, yeah, I don't have as much money with them as I used to. All I really want to be able to do is talk to somebody to help me get my required minimum distribution. And lo and behold, now she doesn't even get to do that.
Right, it doesn't make sense.
It really is just so shameful, and unfortunately, not the first time we've seen it.
No, we've seen that time and time and time. Half the people that come in, it's like at my previous company where I was getting advice, they're doing this to me, and they're literally just being pushed away because they're not bringing in some huge amount of assets.
Well, and I think that's a good point, is that, the financial services industry, you've been in the financial services industry for a long time. I've been in the financial services industry for a long time, and there certainly has been a lot of changes over the years, and so those changes continue. I think this industry is always one of those industries that sort of has a lot of changes in terms of how it services its customers, and oftentimes I think that the kind of the more things change on that front, the worse they become. It's not an improvement, if you will. It's really a reduction, or in this case, it was virtually an elimination of customer service. So again, folks, if you've run into that, or you know someone that did, this person was actually brought in by their daughter, who is a client, and this had happened to their mother. And so if you've run into this, we encourage you to come on in and have a conversation with us about this, about what exactly is going on there and how you might still be able to get some level of service and not have to pay an arm and a leg, and not have to talk to a computer or a 1-800 number. So anyway, welcome into the program. This, of course, is Dollars and Cents, where we help you make sense out of all of life's decisions involving your dollars, including the ones that sort of get forced on you by large financial institutions. My name is Joel Garris. I'm a certified financial planner, certified financial fiduciary. Joining me on the program this week is Rob Field, one of the fellow certified financial fiduciaries at Nelson Financial Planning. Rob also happens to be a national Social Security advisor, which gets us to our topic of this particular segment. So we've certainly talked in the past about what the decisions are, or what the implications are when you decide to take Social Security early, right? So again, if you're taking Social Security early, most people, their full retirement age is 67. You're taking it early, that means you're taking it any time between sort of 62 and that 67. So what's the impact there, if you will?
So Social Security comes up with what amount you would get at full retirement age, and they base a lot of things on that. That's the point where you could continue to work, collect Social Security, and not have a reduction. You could collect Social Security as early as age 62. It's a big reduction from what you would get at 67 or full retirement age. You can also stretch it out to age 70. That's going to be a much larger number, 30% plus more than what you would get at full retirement age. But you have to always remember that when you decide to start collecting Social Security, you sort of lock in your monthly amount. Other than maybe these cost of living adjustments that we've seen, and the last 2 years have been strong, it's not going to be 6s and 8s going forward. The average over 10 years has been about 2.6. So the decision you make to start collecting Social Security, it locks in a number. And that's the number you're going to get with a very small incremental change. It's also going to affect spousal benefits and survivor benefits.
So the timing of it, I mean, basically that sets to your point, that sets your baseline. And once your baseline is set for Social Security purposes, that's it. Then there's not like you're going to get some magical increase down the road. The only increases you're then going to get are the cost of living adjustments. But again, those are based upon that particular base that you started with.
Correct. And the cost of living adjustment, it's not a bonus. It's just bringing up the amount of your Social Security to keep up with inflation. So you even though you see the number getting bigger, it's really not buying you more. It's just keeping you, hopefully, caught up with inflation.
And some would say that the cost of living factor that they use for Social Security doesn't really reflect the cost of living that seniors experience.
Right. When you look at the consumer price index that they normally use for workers, it's kind of catching sort of the middle-aged group. The elderly group, the people that are retired, their costs for medical, housing, and transportation is much higher than the average person.
So one of the things, though, that decision to take Social Security and sort of set that base at whatever it is the implications that it has for your surviving spouse, right? So when you pass, so when you pass, what happens with the Social Security that's coming into that married couple, Rob?
All right, so you have a husband and a wife, two spouses, and they both have qualified for collecting Social Security. So they're getting their amounts, and one person might be getting a small amount, one person might be getting a large amount, but they're getting them both. And so their budget is built on that. So now if one of the spouses passed, yes, the other spouse can pick up 100% of the widower. They can get that amount, and it might be larger than what they were getting before, but they're going to drop one. So you're not going to get both of the benefits. So what happens is sometimes, if your budget is strong and then all of a sudden you drop half of the amount of income you were getting, now you've lost a spouse and you've lost up to maybe 50% of your income.
Yeah, so we'll run a couple of different scenarios just so the listening audience kind of has an appreciation of that. So let's say married couple and each of them is collecting $2,000 a month in Social Security. They both had relatively similar earnings records, and so they're each collecting $2,000. When one of them passes, instead of that household getting $4,000, then it's only going to get $2,000.
Correct.
And so that's a pretty significant reduction in income.
Right. I mean, sometimes you'll see the example where one spouse stayed at home, very small work record. They were collecting probably 50% of what the other spouse was getting just as a normal spousal benefit. But the example you said, if you've got two people, they both worked very hard, so now they've got a very nice size Social Security benefit on both sides, you're going to lose one. And you're going to lose the one that might be the smallest, but if they're both very similar, you just took an instant 50% reduction. So the point you were making is that when you decide to take Social Security at age 62, way before a spouse might pass, that's going to reflect the amount of money that the spousal benefit and the survivor benefit will be. You want to take that into consideration early into your optimization and don't get caught off guard.
And that's specifically important for that again, back to that couple where it's not an equal amount coming in for Social Security. Maybe it's one of them is at $2,000, but then the other is at $1,000. So the implications there aren't quite as dramatic as when both people are sort of collecting the same amount. But there's still the potential loss of a third of your income, even though you might still be getting survivor benefits.
Right. It's a sad situation. You've lost a spouse, and now you've had a decrease in your income, and the budget's going to be hit. But you just want to be prepared for that you are going to drop one of the two Social Security benefits.
So no matter what, it's a 30 to 50% drop in income.
That's correct.
So here's the point of that and why it's so important to sort of understand what retirement income planning is all about. It's not enough to just talk about retirement and the plan for that, but you've got to understand the income nuances along the way and what can happen, because this one's a pretty big one that can happen, and chances are it's going to happen to you unless both you and your spouse pass away at exactly the same time. So with that, we're going to take a break and return after these messages here on Dollars and Cents with Joel Garris and Rob Field of Nelson Financial Planning.